Welcome to the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Join us each week as we sit down with the founder of Alchemy Wealth Management and author of Your Fiscal Physical, Ryan Nelson. Tune in to gain valuable insights and practical tips as we simplify complex financial concepts into digestible lessons. From budgeting to retirement planning, this podcast is your go-to resource for mastering financial literacy.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Fiscal Physical Podcast. My name is Aaron Hoisington, and I am the one of the co-hosts of this podcast here. Definitely not a financial advisor myself, but I am a quick learner, or a learner, as some might say, and I am here with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ryan Nelson, founder of Alchemy Wealth Management. Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, man. Have you seen the stock market recently?
No. Have you?
Me neither. No, just kidding, obviously. Well, maybe, I don't know. But no, we're here to bring you guys some lighthearted fun while also hopefully improving your financial literacy. And I think this week's topic, man, is one that is, I don't want to call it a hot topic. I feel like that term gets thrown around, but I feel like it's a very important topic, to say the least, because we're going to talk about mastering your credit, or just what credit is, because I can't promise you're going to be able to master it by any means. But credit's one of those things that you see it on social media, radio, see it on radio. Good one, Aaron. You hear it on the radio, you see it on your social media, your TikTok, your Instagram, like different tips of how to increase your credit. You see it, TV ads, different companies designed specifically for these things. And sometimes I think it just overwhelms people, the idea of what credit is or learning about it. So I'm hoping that you can kind of break down for the listeners what it is in a simple kind of format that can kind of make it more digestible.
Yeah. So I think in general, when people talk about credit, what they're referring to is their credit score, probably more specifically. So a credit score is going to be some value that's between 300 and 850. And it, like, in theory, tries to represent your credit worthiness. So worded another way, the likelihood that you will pay your debts, right? Or the likelihood that you won't default on your payments. So the higher the number, the better, or the more likely you are to make your payments not default, right? So on the scale from 300 to 850, and 850 is better than a 300. Yep. So you want higher the better. And again, it's in theory a representation of your credit worthiness. So again, how likely you are to pay your debt, or the inverse of that, how likely you won't default on your payments. So that, in a nutshell, is what a credit score is. And when most people talk about their credit, they're talking about credit score. So the most popular type of credit score is what's called a FICO score. So you probably hear that thrown around out there. And so basically, it's the Fair Isaac Corporation is what FICO stands for. Really not important, but they're the ones that came up with this method. And so it can basically be broken into like 5 different categories. So if your score is between 800 and 850, then you're said to have exceptional credit. If it's 740 to 799, you have very good credit. 670 to 739, you have good credit. 580 to 669, you have fair credit. 300 to 579, you have poor credit. Really, those like arbitrary thresholds aren't that important. But you just want to kind of work your credit score up closer to that 850 range, if at all possible.
I like it, man. That is, and I'm going to be honest, I had no idea that's what FICO stood for. Like, I would wonder how many people, if you pose that question to them, because I'm sure everyone can be like, if you say like, hey, what's your FICO score? Like, you've probably, they'd be like, oh yeah, they'd probably maybe know at least an idea of their score. But if you like turned it and been like, hey, do you know what that stands for, or where that comes from? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority there, but I don't think many people would know that. No,
I would venture to guess like around the 1%.
Yeah. But how's that calculated? I guess like that's the next thing is like what goes into it. And
so most people seem to think that their credit score is like this black box. They have no idea what goes into it. They don't know how to improve it, right? But really, FICO is very transparent about they're pretty transparent about how they calculate it, right? And so the main things that are going to contribute to your credit score are your payment history, the amount you owe, the length of credit history, your credit mix, in your new credit. There's some other variables as well. But so really what that means is like, and then in FICO is fairly transparent about how this is broken up as well. So, your payment history represents 35% of your score. So do you make your payments? So if I'm trying to figure out how likely is Aaron to make his payments, well, let's look back, look at all his other payments and see how many payments has he made. Oh, he's made 100% of them? Oh, that looks pretty good. Yeah. Or, oh, he's only made 50% of them? Oh, gosh, I don't want to. He's probably not going to pay. That's not a very good sign, right? So it makes sense, right? That, what's your past history with making payments, right? And then the amount you owed. So if you have a total credit line of $20,000 and you've used $19,500 of that $20,000, I might be a little nervous. I'm like, gosh, he's kind of built like, what is this a representation of? Like, is he able to pay his bills? Maybe not. Maybe he's ramping this credit up and he's almost maxed out. So if I give him another line, how likely is he going to be able to pay it? Yeah. I don't know. I'm getting a little nervous, right? Whereas if you were only, if you had a $100,000 credit line available to you and you'd only used 1,000 of it, and say, okay, yeah, he must either be making payments or not really needing to access this credit. So if I give him more credit, it doesn't look like, I don't see any red flag that I'd be worried about. Like he seems to not, he's either paying off his credit. And if I go reference back to his payment history, yeah, it looks like he's making 100% of his payments. He's only using 1,000 of the 100,000 he has available to him. Yeah, seems like if I gave him a line of credit, he would be able to probably pay it off, right? Yeah. So again, intuitively, these things make sense. A lot of times when you hear people talk about their credit score, they say it doesn't make sense. Like these things do tend to make sense if you dig into them. There are some weird things. I'll give them that. But again, if you were lending your money to somebody, these are things you would probably be interested in, right?
I feel like I'd do some research.
Yeah. And so that kind of makes sense, right? And so just those two factors alone, that represents 65% of your score. So, how much do you owe of the available credit line you have? Are you making your payments on time? And the other thing I might be concerned with is, if I see, you've made 100% of your payments, but you've only been making them for 2 months, like, okay, well, it's good he made both of those payments. He's made two payments out of 2. That's good. But
it's only 2 payments.
I would prefer to see you've had 20 years worth of payments that you were paid 100%. Yeah. Right. So same thing. Your length of credit history, that's another 15%. So if we add just those top 3 together, that's 80% of your score is payment history, amounts owed, and length of credit history. That's 80% of your score. Now, one of the frustrating things is, let's say you haven't done anything with your credit and you want to go start trying to kind of build your credit now. Length of credit history, that's hard to build up. Like that just takes time. You can't fast forward. Like if you've only made 2 payments, if you've only had 2 payments and you've made both payments, you may be the most trustworthy guy out there ever. But I just don't have a history. So me on the outside lending to you, I would be a little fearful. And once you get there and you've done 20 years of payments, perfect. Now I'm more likely to lend to you. It's not your fault you only had 2 payments, but also it's not my fault that you only had 2 payments, right? Yeah. Like, but you do, after 20 years of 100% payments, you do become more trustworthy, right? I'm less concerned that you're going to default on a payment. I'm more confident that you probably will make your payment. You've done it for 20 years, right? So again, if you start looking at these factors, it's like, yeah, if I was the one lending money, that starts to make a lot of sense, right?
Absolutely.
And so, just those 3 factors, again, they represent about 80% of your total credit score, and this stuff, I think, starts to make a bit of sense here.
It really does. It really kind of, you're like, oh, okay, if you think about those 3 factors, just if you even have, some you think in your head just some estimates, as you're like, oh, okay, like, well, I've had making payments for X amount of time, like, never missed a payment, it's pretty good there, but like, do I owe a lot of money? Like, there's these different factors that can probably just swing it. Like, 30, 35, 30, 15%, pretty solid pieces of that. So if you so that is interesting because the idea that you hit on it, just touch on it, like building your credit score. Yep. That's something you hear all the time. Like as far as like, oh, I'm trying to build my credit. I'm trying to get my credit to where it should be and such too. And breaking it down like this doesn't make it seem that hard. Like you're just like, oh, okay. Like,
if we, in kind of summary, if we were to think about this, so credit, we're talking about credit score. That's going to be typically the most common score to use is your FICO score. That's the Fair Isaac Corporation. It's a score between 300 and 850. Higher the better. 80% of that score is calculated on 3 things: payment history, amounts owed, and length of credit history. So if you want to improve that score, let's look at them just in order. Payment history. make all your payments. You need 100% payments. Make every single payment. If you take a debt, you agreed to pay it back. Pay it back.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So easy. Make your payments on time. Second is amounts owed. If you want to boost your credit score, pay down your debt, right? If you're keeping and just building more and more debt over time, again, people are going to get a little nervous to lend to you. You're not heading in the right direction, right? If you're paying down all your debt every single month, you're paying off every single piece of debt you have. God, I have a lot. I'd lend to that person.
Sure,
right?
absolutely.
So make all your payments on time. Work to lower your credit lines, right? So make sure you're utilizing less of your available credit. And then number 3, length of credit history. That one, there's not a ton you can do except give yourself time, right? So set it up for automatic payments. Make sure you're utilizing as little of your credit as possible, and then give yourself time. And over time, you'll gain that length of credit history, and you'll have a good credit score.
No, that's phenomenal, man. And it's funny to think about. It's a little funny anecdote here as far as credit score goes. My dad called me the other day, and we were talking or something. And one thing about my dad, he loves to call to take care of things. He does not like to do things online. He's like 75 years old. He just is like, he can do it if need be. He can log in, whatever, he can hunt and peck down the password, but he likes to call and do things. So he called his credit card company. He always calls and makes his payment on his credit card.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'm like, wow, that's just a waste of time. But I was like, you could just set up automatic payments. I showed him. He just like, no, I haven't. I know it. I'm like, all right, whatever. So, and they give him like his credit score, like a free credit score or whatever. And he called me. He's like, Aaron, I'm at 830 for my credit. And I was like, awesome. And he was just like, and he mentioned it like 3 other times in the conversation. He was just like hammering this home that he had. I was like, that's great, Dad. Good for you.
Hey, that's a darn good score. Something to be proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was like, well, just don't miss a payment because you forget to call.
That's what I would be scared of.
Without a doubt. You don't want to ruin that.
Definitely my 2 cents. If there's one actionable takeaway from this, I think putting all your credit cards and everything on auto payment. Yep. God, make sure, just take away that human element, make sure they're getting paid every time. Because again, that's the most impactful variable here. You want 100% payment. What better way to do that than let the computer system take care of it for you? Just set it up automated. And that'd be my actionable takeaway. But hey, living proof you can get to 8:30 without that.
I guess you can, yes.
But he is diligent about making the phone calls clearly.
Yes,
so
absolutely, guy loves phone calls. But awesome, Ryan. We'll go ahead and pause here. Be back on the other side here, and everybody hang tight.
And now to put the personal in personal finance.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the personal section of the Fiscal Physical podcast. I am here still with Ryan Nelson. And Ryan, I got some trivia for you. And as we are people who live in the great state of Nevada, the Battleborn, I think is what it is. So I'm off to a roaring start. I got some trivia questions specifically around the state of Nevada, and some of them are easy. Some of them you might know. Other ones there might be a little bit harder. So I got 4 total. We'll see if you. I'm pretty confident you can go 50% at least.
Okay.
If you go 75, I'd be pretty good.
Do it.
So, first off,
bighorn sheep.
Yeah, not one. I thought about that though, as far as the state animal.
Blue jay.
What is the year that Nevada obtained statehood?
God, I should know it, but I don't.
That's not good. This is one I thought was a gimme.
Yeah, I know. Is it the name of that bar down on California?
It is, yes.
1886?
Close. 1864.
Yeah.
So all right. Maybe it won't be as easy as I thought here. Well, let's throw you up a little softball here. What's the state flower of Nevada?
Sagebrush.
Atta baby. All right. We're
easy money.
Easy stuff. 1 out of 2.
This stuff's so easy.
In terms of area, of size of state, where does Nevada rank in out of 1 to 50? As far as that goes.
Yeah.
So you look on a map, you think about it, it's decently sized.
Bigger than Rhode Island, smaller than Alaska.
Yeah. So, well, we're right in there.
Yeah.
48 options now.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be bigger than everything on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we got Alaska, California, Texas. I'm going to say there's probably about I'm going to say we're 7.
That's exactly what we are. 7. That was not a give. I didn't think you would get that one, man.
Okay.
Holy smokes. Good for you. Now, this is one that I could see it going either way, depending on, you're kind of an outdoorsy guy overall. So what is the highest peak in Nevada, the highest mountain?
In Nevada.
In Nevada, yes. This one I would consider probably the toughest one because I was like, oh, okay, like, I didn't know that was a place.
God, I feel like I'm going to recognize it when I hear it, but is it in the Rubies?
Yes, yeah. No, it's not in the Ruby. It's like down kind of near Mammoth. Like so it's down that kind of area.
I don't have.
It's called Boundary Peak.
Oh, okay.
It's
no,
right on, and it's do you want to take a stab at how tall it is?
Yeah, let's absolutely. I want to take a stab at that.
Heck yeah.
So it's down by Mammoth. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to be. God, let's say I'm going to go over 10,000. I'll say high 10s. I'll say 10,984.
That's a pretty good guess. It's 13,147 feet. Yeah.
I didn't realize we had anything above 13,000 here. Yep. That's incredible.
It's
wow.
a big one. And I think it's called Boundary Peak. Don't quote me on that because it's like right on the border of like Nevada and California. So something to check out if you want to go climb a big tall mountain in Nevada. You can.
I knew of Boundary Peak, of course. I just assumed it was in California. I didn't know we were counting it as a. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, I didn't realize we had anything quite that large.
Yeah,
awesome.
I was also kind of blown away because you don't really think of Nevada as like a. We have like where we sit in Reno, obviously it's like got mountains around it and such too, but like, you get farther, southeast of here, it's like, well, it's a pretty little barren out there for sure. But
yeah, great trip. Yeah, great question. I would have never got that, but pretty cool.
Yeah, and I can't believe you nailed the size too. That was pretty impressive.
50%, like
50%, like right off the bat there. So awesome. Well, thank you, Ryan. Really appreciate it as always. Thanks to all the listeners out there. Like, subscribe, follow, send us your feedback wherever you might get your podcasts, and we will be here next week without a doubt. So Ryan, any last words?
As always, stay the course.
Thank you for joining us for the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Until next time, happy listening. And as always, stay the course. If you have a question or topic suggestions, please email us at podcast@alchemywealth.com. If you enjoyed today's discussion, subscribe to the podcast to ensure you never miss an episode. And consider leaving us a rating and review on your favorite platform. This helps other listeners like you find the show. For more resources, you can visit Alchemy Wealth Management's website at www.alchemywealth.com or find your Fiscal Physical, the book, on Amazon. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention that personal finance is just that, personal. Please don't take anything we say as advice. The preceding content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's not an offer or a solicitation, nor should it be construed or relied upon for tax, legal, or investment advice. It doesn't consider your personal financial situation or objectives and may not be suitable for you.